Passion, purpose, possibilities. They're all right there. But sometimes we need a little push. And that's where SheSez comes in. Think of it as a master class taught by the world's most interesting women, sharing stories and ideas, because girlfriends help each other. This is SheSez with Linda Grasso. Hello and welcome to SheSez. Our guest today is Susan Feldman, co-founder of the popular online home interiors and decor retailer One Kings Lane. For most of Susan's career, she worked as an executive in the apparel industry for companies like Ralph Lauren and Liz Claiborne. Then in 2005, she moved from a New York City apartment to a house in Los Angeles, and she encountered some challenges in trying to furnish and accessorize it. It was 2008, not a great time to launch a business, but Susan felt she had a terrific idea to make home items more accessible and affordable. She joined forces with a partner and 6 months later in 2009 launched One Kings Lane. As many of us who have shopped there for years know, it was a brilliant idea. Susan, thank you for joining us today on SheSez.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I love your story. I love your the site. It's particularly I was telling you about the sales that you'd have where you'd bring in celebrities to curate. And
Yeah,
have
the
these
tastemakers.
That was so great. I could never actually get anything I wanted because it was selling out. I know. I think I kind of gave you a few words about that when you came in.
You got to get there fast. You had to get there fast to get it. Yeah.
So let's go back a step before we talk about kicking off One Kings Lane and talk about your career in retail. Was that a satisfying career for you? You were in New York City most of it.
Yeah, it was great. It was it was funny. I kind of had it in my blood. My dad was a retailer. I grew up with it. It was something that I knew and loved and, enjoyed. So right out of college, I went into a training program, became a buyer very quickly, but then had a moment. I was like, oh, maybe there's something else I'd like to do. Went back to business school thinking, who knew I could end up an investment banker, but was pulled right back into retailing.
So you got an MBA?
Yes, I got an MBA at UCLA. I loved retailing. I loved that. I ended up very quickly, though, going to what we call the other side. So I worked on the wholesale side, selling to retailers for really the majority of my career, which was fun. So running sales and marketing organizations.
And during that part of your career, you married, you had 2 daughters.
I did.
And you made it all work.
Somehow I made it work. Yeah. So.
And then you moved here because I believe your husband got a job offer and that.
Well, I got rid of the first husband.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
FYI.
It's okay. We got along fine. But yeah,
Okay.
I got divorced. So that was interesting also working and, having 2 kids to take care of. But remarried 5 years later to the love of my life. So that was good.
And he got a job promotion that entailed moving to Los Angeles.
He ended up had a job opportunity. It wasn't a promotion. It was actually a pretty big change for him, kind of moving from client side from he was in the service industry, PR, moved from, running an agency to becoming the client. So he came out here to head up corporate communications for DreamWorks Animation. So it was a big change for him.
And you started working for a California company as well.
I did. I worked for an apparel company that was owned by Liz Claiborne at the time. They had just made an acquisition and needed some help on the sales and marketing side. So
just as that was wrapping up, right, that wasn't a super long-term gig, you were trying to furnish this house.
Yeah.
So tell me
well,
how
actually,
that all came about.
It was interesting. So I went to work it was a company called CNC California. It was a consulting gig, and it was kind of kept going on for a lot of different reasons. So I started in 2005, and in 2008, the company was it was sold to another company. And it was like at that point I decided that I really felt I wasn't, it was time to move on and either maybe retire or do something different. In the meantime, we had bought this house when we moved to Los Angeles, and it's probably an understatement to say I became somewhat of a lunatic because I had lived in an apartment basically my entire adult life. I mean, from the minute I got out of college, whether it was in Los Angeles or New York, I lived in an apartment, and now here I had this house, I had a backyard, I could entertain outside. I had
It's a whole new world out there,
It was a
Susan.
whole new world. I had rooms I could decorate. I literally was just like losing my mind. My family, every time we go shopping, I'd see a home store. They're like, no, we can't go into another home store. But I became really obsessed with home. And it was an interesting time because from an e-commerce online standpoint, if you knew what you wanted, you could go to, say, an Amazon and type in what you were looking for, and most likely could find it, or you could go to more traditional retailers, Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn, Restoration Hardware. They had online businesses at the time. But if you were looking for something different and unique and not that you might see, in a lot of places, there just was nothing online at the time.
Yeah, I mean, your alternative would be to hire a pricey interior designer.
Exactly.
Which is out of reach for a lot of people, by the time you pay their commission and then this, that, and the other. But if you're looking for truly unique items.
Yeah, and the stores in Los Angeles are fantastic. So if you had time to, go and explore and, really look for things, you could find fantastic things, but online, not so much.
But also you needed the money. I mean, a lot of those stores, remember when Robertson used to have all those cool stores and super expensive.
Yeah. Well, and actually the design industry at the time, I mean, when we look back, we feel like we really democratized, design and, how people could furnish their home, because before One Kings Lane, you could, like I said, you could go to, these great stores that had online presence, Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn. That was like sort of one big box type of stores. Or there was To the Trade, which was this sort of mystery that nobody really quite understood, which was to hire a designer. And somewhere over there, they would go and find things and bring them back to you, but you never really had access to it. And we felt like we really gave people access once we started One Kings Lane to, what was behind the wall.
So share with us the light bulb moment. When was your first aha?
Yeah. Well, the aha was actually in 2007 in the fashion apparel business, something called flash sales started, which were really almost like sample sales online. So you would go online, there would be an event or a sale. It would be, limited inventory for a limited amount of time. So it would just be like if you've ever gone to a sample sale where you show up and, you get there early, you can find good things. If you get there late, maybe not so much. Same type of idea, but online. So I was participating in this as a manufacturer when, working for the t-shirt company that I was working at. And I was so blown away by how powerful this model was. We sold, we did an event and t-shirts. We sold, crazy amount, like 1,200 t-shirts in 24 hours. I'm like, wow, this is kind of amazing. There's something here. And I thought, but it's interesting. They were only selling apparel. And I was like, why couldn't you take the same model and sell, things for the home?
Who was the first person you told?
My husband. And
what did he say? It was not a good time to start a business.
Yeah, well, so you have to understand, this is 2007. So I talked about this for really about a year before I actually started.
So it was before the economy crashed.
No, the economy was crashing, but it was, I just wasn't paying attention to that. I just said there's an opportunity here. I could see a white space because I knew I was out there looking and shopping and I couldn't find anything like what I was looking for.
So what was move number one? What did you do?
Well, move number one was finally, I made a decision to leave this consulting gig that I had. And actually, I give Bob a lot of credit, my husband, because he finally said to me, listen, here's the deal. Either stop talking about it or go do it. And I was like,
good advice.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay. So he kind of pushed me in the pool. It's a big leap. I mean, especially after working, for big companies and things like that, to go and start something on your own. So the first thing that I really wanted to do was to find a business partner. I knew from my experience in working that I always kind of had a partner in crime, and I knew that I would function better that way. And actually, Bob met this woman, Lisa Stone, who started a company called blogher.com. And he said, my wife has this idea. What do you think? She goes, I think it's amazing. Have her call me. And I'd love to talk to her about it. So I thought, wow, that was so nice and, gracious. And so I called her and she's like, I think it's awesome. You should totally do it. What can I do to help you? And I
love hearing that.
I was like, awesome. And I said, well, actually, I'm looking for a business partner that has digital marketing background. Maybe you know somebody, that does that. She goes, I think I do. let me get back to you. The next day, she sent an email to me and my business partner, Allie Pincus, introducing the two of us. And it was just like that. It was just like, you two should meet. Susan has this idea. I think would find it interesting. Allie, like, here, connect. And so we did. We started talking. It was like I said, I've had two great blind dates in my life, Bob Feldman and Allie Pincus. And we started talking every day on the phone. We were emailing each other. But the kicker is that Allie lives in San Francisco and I live in Los Angeles. So I finally said to her, listen, are you really interested in doing this? She said, yes. I said, okay, then you need to get on a plane and come to Los Angeles because we need to meet. So she came down. We spent the day together. We, had a million great ideas. She went home. We talked some more. And 3 weeks later, I finally said to her, like, are you in or are you out? Like, do you want to do this or not? She goes, I'm in. And I'm like, great. And I said, you need to come back down here. We need to, figure this all out. And
so what was it about her? Picking the right partner is so crucial. Was it that you had complementary skill sets, that you just had a sixth sense about her?
I think probably both of those. So we definitely, I think one of the things that made our partnership work so well is that we've definitely complemented each other from, I think, even where we were in our, in our life. Like at that point, my youngest daughter was getting ready to go to college. I was about ready to be, empty nester. Allie just had gotten married. She didn't have kids. So I think there were all of those things that actually complemented each other, from our personal lives to actually our personalities and where we had skill sets. So, and that was so important in the beginning of building a startup, is you're just grabbing at things as you're, running as fast as you can. And, Allie would say, I got this, I can do this. And I'd say, great, I'm on this. Don't worry about that. And, and that worked really well. We weren't fighting to kind of do the same thing. We were actually working together, and I think help us move along really quickly.
So did you have to go out and raise around?
Well,
in the beginning,
we probably would have, but it was literally like the sky was falling. I think all the venture people were hiding under their desks. So this was November of 2008. If you go back and look at the headlines back then, it was, really doomsday. So we said, okay, here's the deal. We're going to each put in, a certain amount of money, which was not a lot. Yeah, it was minimal. And we'll give it a run and see what we can do. And we were very fortunate that literally after the first month, the business took off so fast that we were cash flow positive at that point.
We were talking about before we started the episode today about the moment that you thought that you and Allie both realized that you had something there.
Yeah.
And literally your whole face just lit up. Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, I think it wasn't you hear people talk about the moment. It felt like it continued to be moments. It was from day one. We had a goal when we started to sign up 5,000 people who we would send an email to on the first day. So on day one, we had, which is so crazy, exactly 5,000 people at 8:00 when our first email went out. It was like a sign or something like that. So we sent the email out. That was great. We did $1,600 that day. We were happy. The next day, we had made a deal with Daily Candy, which was a newsletter back in the day, and we gave them an exclusive. So they sent a letter out the next day about One Kings Lane, and we went from 5,000 to 30,000 people in one day, and did $32,000, the next day. And it just every day was like that. It was just crazy. And then, there are other moments on probably a year in, be on an airplane and talking to a flight attendant and say, oh yeah, I'm one of the co-founders of One Kings Lane. Oh my God, One Kings Lane. They go crazy. That's good, that she actually knows about it and has heard about it.
Wow, so. When you look back on that period of your life, it's got to be such a fantastic time.
It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. We definitely everyone says at the beginning of a startup, you work your tail off, but there's nothing, especially if it's working. And we were fortunate enough that, like I had said to you before, it was like lightning in a bottle. We launched and it was just trying to keep up with it. It just took off so fast.
It was really such a perfect time for you to do it too, with your kids older.
Yeah, I think, actually it was kind of interesting because I've never worked so hard in my life. And actually my family was incredibly supportive. They were excited about it. And it's funny, my daughter at the time, who was home, was accepted early to Michigan, and so she sort of she's got involved also. Like if I didn't even have time to go to the grocery store, or dry cleaners or anything. If I needed clothes, she would like go shop for me. She was almost became like my personal assistant. She was doing photography for the site. I mean, we were super scrappy. We were doing whatever we had to do. There's so many great stories of how we, made it work in the beginning. Like people say, how'd you do that? It's like, that is a really good question.
And you were kind of a newlywed at the time because it was your second marriage. It was a fairly young marriage.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Your guy must be pretty incredible.
He's
the
a good
understanding.
guy. He's
Because
a
if
good
my
guy.
husband says to me one more time, will you get off your computer?
Yeah. Well, later down, he got a little more like, get off your computer. But in the beginning, I think it was really exciting for everybody just to watch how fast it took off. And it was crazy. It was a lot of fun.
So your job at that time, and you got really involved in the buying process. You would go on these trips and you would fill these big crates. Gosh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, well, that was a couple of years in, but I was the chief merchandiser for, the company. So that's where I put after we did a round of financing about a year in, brought in partners, and at that time, I wanted to spend as much time as I could on the merchandising side. So we did bring in a professional CEO to run the company because it was just growing so fast. It was impossible to do all of that. And I really put, 180% into what was on the site and working with the manufacturers. And then we created new initiatives like these shopping trips where I would go with like amazing designers and travel to incredible places, and we'd shop and fill up containers and bring them back. So,
okay, that's like my fantasy job. I'm just saying.
Well, that's what I say. You have to be careful what you wish for, because it might come true, which is exactly how that initiative started. I was talking to Nathan Turner, who's a designer here in Los Angeles. He had been our first tastemaker. He's like, that was awesome. Like, what's next? I said, well, my dream is to, travel around the world and bring back, really interesting, unique product for the One Kings Lane customer. He's like, well, that's interesting. Like, where do you want to go? I said, India. He goes, I'll go to India with you. And like 6 weeks later, we were on a plane and we landed in Delhi and shopped till we dropped.
That sounds like so much. I have to tell you a really funny story about Nathan. He had this pop-up shop at this sort of mall near my house over the holidays.
Right.
And I went and I just fell in love with it. His fabrics and his colors. And at the time I was looking for a pillow for my sofa.
Yeah.
And I went in and I wanted to get one of them. And I said to the clerk, how much is that? She says, you know what? I don't know. But you know what? I'm going to run your credit card and I'll call you and tell you how much it is. I'm thinking it's a pillow. How much could it be, right? Like, maybe $100, maybe $200. It was for my main room, so I felt like I could kind of spend on it.
Yeah.
And I get home and she calls me and she says, I just want to let you know that pillow is $500.
Oh my
I'm like, well, that's too expensive for me.
Yeah,
I'm bringing
that
it back.
pillow back.
So I was like, it's like kind of embarrassing. I go back and I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to give this pillow back. And she was really sweet. And I had done a story on the pop-up shop, so they kind of knew who I was. I'm a magazine editor. And we had done a story on this fancy interior design guy coming to the mall and opening the shop. So the next time I was in there a couple of months later, the clerk came up and she said, I've got a little bag for you in the back. And I said, oh, I don't have a bag here. She goes, no, Nathan wanted me to give you something.
Aww.
It was the sweetest thing.
That's so nice.
Isn't that so thoughtful?
That's very nice.
So I have a $500 pillow on my sofa right now.
Very, very nice. I like it.
Want to get back to you. So you're traveling, you're doing all this stuff. You're being a wife, it's going so great. You ultimately sell the business.
We did. Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about that thought process. Now, look, by this point you have investors. You have to do your timing and, when someone makes the right offer and you have to do what's right. That had to be tough for you to let that baby go.
It was. It's very bittersweet, after you build a company, a brand, you feel you have a certain responsibility. But I think that when we ended up being acquired by Bed Bath & Beyond a little over a year ago, they, brought to the table a lot of things that we thought would help take the business to the next level. They have, I forget how many stores, 1,200 stores. We were desperate to, create physical spaces, which now, since we've even been part of, Bed Bath & Beyond, we had a great store in Southampton this summer, and it did so well that we've extended the lease for a year. We're looking for real estate in Manhattan. So like they were able to bring, a lot of those resources to the table that we felt would really help us take the company to the next level. So, but yeah, I think that's what the goal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the goal was to build a great company and sell it, and so that's what we did. And I think we sold it to somebody who, like I said, appreciates what we built and wants to take it to the next level. So that's exciting. And my dream is that 5 years from now, I'm driving down the street and I see lots of One Kings Lane stores.
So you're crafting your own next chapter right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Share.
Yeah. Well, I'm still involved in One Kings Lane, so I'm not involved in the day-to-day business, but the people, particularly the CEO of Bed Bath & Beyond, has been incredible and, believes that as the founder, I should somehow be involved. So kind of the ultimate brand ambassador. I go to markets with the buying team. I help with partnerships. Fortunate being in Los Angeles, I meet a lot of interesting people that I can introduce to the company so that we can work with them. We did a thing a couple months ago with Courtney Cox, which was great, and people like Jen Meyer, the jewelry designer. So those are, things that I can help, the company with. But in the meantime, I feel like there's an opportunity. I think I've got one more thing in me.
I do too. I can see it.
And I feel that as a 62-year-old woman that our demographic is pretty underserved online, and so trying to build something out around that.
Wow, you're 62. What kind of skin cream do you use? I need to get some of that. Yeah. Seriously, what kind of facial products do you use? You have beautiful skin and your eyes. What do you use?
I don't know. Well, I use different things. La Mer cream.
Oh, the really expensive one.
Well, that's that. But I think sometimes it's worth investing on.
Yeah,
a
lot of my
things.
girlfriends actually use that,
Yeah.
and they say if you're going to invest in one product,
exactly.
Do you use it during the day or just at night?
No, just at night. But I think I don't know why. Somewhere along the line, like when I was in my late 20s, like someone's like, it's a good idea to take care of your skin, and I was always like, I did that back, even. Getting facials, which was like hard to do and expensive, but I like made a commitment to do it. And I think you gotta be proactive about things like that.
Yeah, I pay more for skincare than I do for like lipstick and blush.
Yeah.
I find that all very, you can get a great lipstick at Maybelline.
Oh,
I
totally.
think.
Yeah, no, I think, you got to find what works for you. And I love finding, all different products. Somebody just introduced me to this really cool product from, it's a Korean, line, and you put it on your skin. It kind of evens out your skin tone. So,
Ooh, is it in a black container with red writing?
No, it's silver with red, I think.
Because I just someone shared some Korean product with me too.
But it's great. But there's like so much fun stuff out there now.
Absolutely.
You have to try and see what works for you.
So I know you can't really talk about what your next endeavor is, but what is it? But you're working on something.
Yes.
You'll of course announce it on SheSez first.
Of course, be happy to.
What is it about you that you don't want to sit back and sort of kick back and just enjoy life and travel and?
Well, I do like doing that too.
Well, no, I know you do, but you're thinking about taking on another project, and that's more hard work.
No, it is. It is hard work. I don't know. I think, with age comes sort of experience, and you understand a little bit better how to do that, and you understand what's important, what's not important, how you can prioritize. So I think with some respects, it should be a little bit easier to do it. I mean, I know it's going to be a lot of work for sure. But I don't know. I like creating things and building brands, and I get excited about when I see things. So it's hard for me just to think, well, I'm not going to be doing anything. Like I said, I feel like I could do one more thing.
Do you feel like you haven't reached your peak yet? And that can be not just professionally, which we've been talking about, but personally.
No, I mean, I feel good. I feel good, which maybe is why I want to do something else. I don't feel like I have to prove anything now, but it's just like I see something out there that I think is a big opportunity. So it's hard for me to walk away from it.
I just always think back, my grandmother always told me that life begins at 50. Life begins at 50.
I think your grandmother was smart, but I think also one of the things I realized, like my dad was a big influence on me. He lived to be 88, but he went back to school at 80 and got his MFA and painted, for the last 8 years of his life. So it just makes me like feel like I think part of staying young and feeling like you're with it is just doing things and learning things. And I think you can do that a lot of different ways. It certainly doesn't mean starting a business, but I think, creating a business is another way to do that.
Well, and I think it's really about embracing change.
Yeah,
What we did in our 20s maybe wasn't what we were supposed to do in our 30s and our 40s and
totally.
50s, something different. And it's about constantly reinventing, not just once.
Yeah, I think it's like being open. You'd be open to, it sounds a little woo-woo, but like open to the universe. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's even like when we moved out to California 13 years ago, we just kind of, not to say we didn't just do it, but we knew that that was something we wanted to do. We came out here and it was been amazing for us. And actually, quite honestly, Bob went on to start his own company, and I feel like if we hadn't been in California, there might not even be a One Kings Lane because something else would have come up corporately or whatever in New York where we had been living. It just would have been different, and so we were open to that, and we took that leap, and it's worked out great for us. But I think moving was an awesome thing for us at the time too. We loved being in New York. We still love going back to New York, but we came out here and we were open to it, and it's been, great. So I think you just have to be, you know, like as you get older, be a little open to new
Mm-hmm.
things.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I want to come up with a couple of takeaways together for some of our
Yeah.
listeners, things that we can learn from your story.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think the first one should be?
Um, well, I mean, I think if you have an idea, you should do it. I think like I have a lot, I talk to a lot of people, they have ideas, they talk about a lot of ideas, but, I think, and that was kind of what Bob had said to me, like, do it or, like, stop talking about it. And what's the worst thing that will happen? It won't work. Like that, and we kind of approached One King's Land like that in the beginning. We were so worried that it was not going to work that we set everything up in such a way that if it didn't work, we could walk away. But like if we hadn't tried, we never would have known. So I think if there are people out there that have ideas and want to do things, like go for it. And you don't have to start huge. You can start small, and then you have like a success, and you can build on those successes, which I think is important. We did that with One King's Land. Like we knew in our mind we wanted it to be big. We wanted to be able to sell everything for the home, but we were a teeny group in the beginning. It was just really Allie, myself, and two other people. And so we knew we could only, cover a certain part of the market. So we started with one part of the market. And when that did well and the business started growing, then we added, we started off with decorative accessories. And then when that did well, we added lamps. And when that did well, we added rugs. And when that did well, we added art. And, we kept building on those success. We didn't do all that all like on day one. We started off with we had a good idea. We executed really well and created a great experience for the consumer, and we're able to build on that. But you got to start someplace, which I think is so hard. Believe me, it's been hard for me the second time around. It's hard to do it.
Well, that's so interesting to hear you say that because you're just a master at it.
No, I know too much now. That's the thing. I know way too much. That's the problem. So I have to, I keep talking myself in and out of things, but you just got to do it. You got to go out there and put something out there. And like I said, what's the worst thing that happened? It won't work, right? But you tried.
You got to take the leap.
You got to take the leap for
Susan,
sure.
thanks so much for having us. I
Thank
will
you for
look
having
forward to
me.
hearing what your next endeavor is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. We're interested in what you think. And if it's a good one, it'll just help us make more. Thanks a lot.